Hello there, and welcome back to another edition of the Hot Lap Classic Remastered. This time we'll take a look at the 1997 Honda NSX Type S0. This is the quickest of all of the NSXs that you can buy at the Honda new dealer. It isn't the quickest NSX overall though. That honour goes to the NSX Type R, if you can find it. The Type S0 is essentially a stripped out version of the NSX Type S. Don't ask me what the Type S gets you, I don't know. It wasn't more power at this time because the NSX's 3.2 litre V6 was rated at 276 horsepower, and as far as I'm aware, Honda was like one of the only manufacturers that actually took the gentleman's agreement somewhat seriously. So usually if Honda said 276, they were right about it. So yeah, I don't know what that gets you, but either way, what I do know is NSXs in this course don't really mix. It hasn't been all that great. Now, admittedly, some of these have been 4-speed automatic NSXs, which, yeah, they obviously weren't going to do too well. But even, I mean, the quickest NSX we've had was the Type R, which just managed to get into the under 30 club, which was quite a shock to us. But the next quickest one, I think, is the Acura NSX, which set like a 30.5, which compared to the likes of your sort of Supras and Skylines and RX-7s, it's just nowhere near. The course does not favour sort of high revving, naturally aspirated engines and mid-engined rear drive cars, so yeah, we'll see how this one gets along. This car, race mod, I believe is based on a test car from JGTC. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Honda showed up to GT500 a year later than Toyota and Nissan did, from what I remember. I think Nissan was racing in sort of series that became JGTC for ages, then the Supra showed up, and then Honda showed up, I think in the first year with a car that was sort of based on the Le Mans Racing 1995 cars, so yeah, I think that was sort of the history of how that works. But either way, it's quite a cool looking race mod, a bit basic. I don't really like the colour schemes available, it's either black or the dark blue we saw on the Acura NSX, but no, I think in terms of bodywork and stuff, it does look quite proper. Mid-engined rear drive, 451 horsepower, 1,084 kilograms. This is going to be a completely different beast to that RX-7 we had last time out. Anyways, to find out how the NSX Type S0 gets along, it is going to get 6 laps of the Motorsports Land track in order to set the best time it possibly can. First gear seems pretty useless because it just spins the rear wheels. Our quickest car, this car's going to have 6 laps to set the best time it possibly can. Our current leader is the Suzuki Escudo Pikes Peak version. That car set a time of 25.696. The NSX Type S0 is unlikely to beat that. In terms of where this is going to go, I've sort of mentioned a couple of cars already. The NSX Type R, 29.945. In theory, this shouldn't really get anywhere near that. Acura NSX, 30.534. This should be quicker than that, because it has less weight, in theory. If we can deal with the mid-engine drivetrain, because it is very understeery. That being said, first lap out, 30.285. Fairly respectable, actually. That's sort of the ballpark in which I would imagine this would go. That was a pretty gingerly first lap. Wow, okay, this is interesting to drive, I'll tell you that straight away. Understeer is the first thing that comes to mind, just miles of understeer. We see this quite normally from the mid-engine cars. The sort of, I don't want to say low-end mid-engine car for an NSX, but like the mid-engine road cars, the race cars are usually pretty good actually, but the road cars especially, I do find they don't really like the bumps. They sort of bounce around a lot on the bumps typically, and when you get to a corner, because there's virtually no way over the front axle, they just push on through corners, so you have to really make sure you can commit to the power before you commit to the power. It does get just into the under 30s though, 29.990. Definitely some more time in this as well, because that first sector was not fantastic. But it's like here, I just tried to jump on the power a little bit there, feel it out, and I would have just gotten careening straight into the tyre barriers. We've seen so many cars do before when we usually try to push them. The difference is I wasn't really trying to push this, I was just trying to see whether it would cooperate or not, and the answer was not. It is a shame, because around any other track, these are actually quite nice to drive. I'd imagine these, because they have sort of decent amounts of, the grip on the rear end's quite good. It's just that sort of understeer push, but on most high-speed tracks, I can imagine the downforce would probably pick that up. Could have gone quicker on that lap. Definitely could have gone quicker. There's definitely a little bit more in there. That being said, I don't think this would have been quicker than the Type R. I could have maybe made it quicker than Type R, because it did look like I left a little bit of time on the table on that final lap. But in theory, this should not be competing with that. It is a handful. I remember in that Type R as well, I think it was saying like 30.4s and then it just randomly set like a 29 on the final lap. That feels a little bit more secure. So yeah, definitely quicker for the first sector. Second sector didn't lose a lot of time. I think, yeah, just trying to add that up, I don't think that would have been even that much quicker than the Type R, even if I had like the same final sector as I did on that fourth lap. But yeah, quick car. I mean, I'm quite impressed with that, because usually these are not particularly good. So we will take it, but yeah, just not quite there as a loud bike goes past. Actually wasn't as loud as I thought it was going to be. A 29.990 will place this in to 190th. It is actually the slowest member of the under 30 club currently, which is interesting. Beats the likes of the Celica GT4, TVR Chimera, Golf 1.8 Turbo, the Legacy Touring Sports, TVR Blackpool. That's an interesting one. Yeah, fractionally beaten by the NSX Type R. Again, I think you could argue if I'd gathered it up on that final lap, could have been quicker, but I don't think it would have been by much. It's also slower than the Dodge Viper GTS Tommy Kyra ZZ2, which is a car that should be very clear of this, but very clearly was not. Yeah. I mean, it's quicker than like an S2000. S2000 is very much down on power to this, but the S2000, again, very similar issue where there's just not a lot of revs in it. Yeah. Not, I don't really know. It's okay. Like, I mean, it's in the under 30 club, so it's not bad. But I suppose from the price that you pay and what you expect from an NSX, it almost feels like if this just had a little bit more front end grip, I will probably say this would be 0.3 quicker if it had a little bit more on the front end. But and then if it had a turbocharger, God knows. But yeah, interesting one. Anyways, that's it for this episode. Thank you all very much for watching. Join me next time when I'll be driving something completely different. Until then, farewell.